Hello and welcome to Girls Across the Pond, episode 5.
We are like veterans right now.
What can I
Episode
say?
5?
Pro podcasters.
I'm just saying, yeah.
Watch as everything in this episode goes wrong.
And if you count the times we had to do over episode 1 because of technical errors on my part, it's all good. Welcome to Girls Across the Pond. We have a very fun show today. Fun things to chat about. I watched an interesting movie last night that I want to chat about, and customer service. Got a lot of that.
No.
I know. I was also doing some research this week, trying to figure out what gens we are. Because I thought I was a millennial. Gen.
Oh, gens. I thought you meant like gems.
Baby.
And I was like birthstones?
We are gems. No, because I thought I was a millennial, and I'm not. I'm not a millennial. I thought I was a boomer. I think I'm so young. I did get carded yesterday. I'm here to tell you.
Really?
Great. I did. So I want to talk about generations, specific generations, and what goes along with that is some culture clashes. And we're studying languages this year, and you brought up some very interesting things about culture clashes. So that is what we got today. Fun stuff.
Yeah. Grab a cup of tea, grab a cup of coffee, or any beverage, or maybe even a little scone, and sit down and have a nice conversation with us across the pond. How are you? It's been a week since our last episode. How you feeling?
I am feeling really good. It's funny. Our weather right now has been. Let's talk about the weather. Our weather has been so cool right now. I like
ours has
70s.
Been too. Ours has been really nice over here. It's been really sunny.
Yours has been good. Ours has been cool.
Oh well, for us it's been like cool, not cold, but cool.
Nice. Gotcha. I had a girlfriend who came out to, I'm in Florida right now, and she came out to Florida for her kids' spring break. She was so excited. She landed. She's like, I'm here, woohoo! They're going to Disney World and stuff, and the weather has just been, since they got here. And I know I've been Snapchatting her, and she's been like, this is awful. So I feel so bad. Poor thing. I feel really bad. I hate when that happens. You get a nice vacation, and you get there, and it's just... So, but it's been cool, and it's going to heat up. I've been in jeans for like the last few days, which is unheard of here in sunny Florida.
I think that's a pro. Something that rain is like my favorite type of weather, but I feel like that's one of the pros to liking rain or quote unquote bad weather is that even in a place where weather is like sunny very constantly, if it rains or if I go somewhere via vacation and it's raining or it's overcast, I'm not upset by it. I'm like, yeah it's nice.
Yeah, but if you were going to go to a beach somewhere, if you were going to have a beach vacation, would you be happy about that?
I'm not a beach person anyways, so...
Me either.
Can't say I'd be too bummed about it.
We found a couple beaches here in sunny Florida that are dog friendly, so we're excited to take them
nice.
Yes.
See how she likes the sand? Ooh, sand.
Yeah. Sand. The sand here is really weird. It's almost like a powdered sugar. You know what powdered sugar feels like? It's super, super fine. Yeah.
Weird.
It's not grainy at all. So it's very nice. So, yeah. How's school going?
It's going well. Yeah, I can't complain. I'm enjoying all my classes. You know, today we record this podcast on a Monday. I don't know if anybody listening is listening on a Friday or Tuesday or whatever, but we record on Mondays. And so every time we record, earlier today, I have an in-person studio seminar. It's also like one of my Monday classes. And it's basically where production students go in and you're in like a small group and you are doing like practical work in the studio. So typically for my small group, like we go in and our mentor has like a list of tasks for us to run through and just like making sure we're getting signals working and everything like that. And recently we've been focusing on actual hardware gear, like hardware compressors and hardware like noise gates and stuff like that, and making sure they're like attached and like how to run a signal through them and stuff like that. And we were doing that today, and we were patching some stuff through and like sending the signal to like all this outboard gear, so getting it out of the actual recording desk and into an outboard gear and then back into the recording desk and all this stuff. And
Wow.
we were doing all these instructions on the task, and it was basically like send the vocal track to this compressor and then send it out of the compressor and back. And then we finished all the tasks on time, so it was just basically like, okay, now you guys can do whatever. And I got really curious, so instead I unpatched the thing from the compressor, so the vocals were going out of the compressor, and then I was like, I'm going to send it to another outboard gear. So I went from the compressor into an EQ and then back into the vocals, and the whole group was like kind of just like sitting there watching me, and I felt very knowledgeable. And then I was like, oh yes, I put this into the EQ, and somebody was like, wow, your brain's on like a whole nother level, I didn't even think about that. And I felt very prideful. I love it when somebody compliments my intelligence. There is no greater thing.
What is an EQ, and why would you do that?
It's an equalizer. So,
Oh.
I mean, the idea is to like, I guess the name is based around the idea that you would create an equal frequency across all the entire frequency plane, but that's not what you're doing. Is you're cutting and boosting certain frequencies to balance it. So, like a female vocal, like sounds like you can boost like the 2 kilohertz range of frequency, and it'll make the vocal sound a little more like bright or something like that. So like you can pull up certain frequencies in like an audio track, and it'll make certain sounds more, it changes like the overall sound and timbre of the track. So I was just sending it to another outboard gear from one, but I like kind of like like, you know, like when you take expo markers and you can put one expo on the other when they're closed, and you like make a giant expo sword.
An expo sword. Yes.
It was kind of like that. Basically, we only were sending it to one, so it was like having one expo marker. But I was like, what if I send one expo marker into the other expo marker and then sent it back into the desk, kind of thing. So that's like where my mind went. So I made a bigger expo sword than everybody else.
My daughter, ladies and gentlemen.
Talking about expo swords. I don't know. I just felt very smart today, so that's always
Nice.
a very pleasing moment for me. And
Nice.
the day we're recording this, Easter's a week away.
Yeah, we're coming up. This is
Is this the final week of Lent? No, it's 2
Lent-
weeks away, isn't it?
Easter's on the 4th of April.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
we're
man.
coming up to Palm Sunday, and then we have
You're
Holy
correct.
Week after that.
Sorry.
Not to get all religious, but yeah, my little care package may not make it to you in time.
Easter.
Which is, I'm gonna talk about
Easter
this
break starts next week.
for you guys. Yeah, you get
Yeah,
another
for
2
us.
weeks off.
We get 2 weeks off. Yeah, correct.
You should come home.
No. I might go down to London to visit Simon,
Oh, that'd be fun.
but I haven't decided yet.
Oh, that'd be fun. I wanted to talk about customer service. Have you encountered any in the UK?
No, I've never dealt with any customer service ever.
Shush.
Like, you mean bad customer service?
Anything that stands out, good or bad?
No.
I've had some bad customer service in England. I've had, for the most part, good. I love the Brits. I love England. I love everything about it. But some of the moments I've had that have stood out have been some crotchety old people. And I had, okay, I don't even know where to start with this because I had such bad customer service today. I watched a movie last night. As you know, I love biographies and documentaries and things, and we couldn't figure out a movie to watch. So I was flipping through the channels, and we came across a movie called The Last Blockbuster. Are you familiar with it?
Mm-mm.
Do you know Blockbuster Video?
The old store where you could like go and rent videos. Yeah.
Have you ever been in the Blockbuster Video?
I think once or twice, but they went out when I was pretty young. There used to be
Yeah.
one in like the little shopping center really close to our house back home. And I remember seeing
Really?
it. Like we used to drive past it, yeah.
I can't even
Yep.
think of where that would be. Anyways, yeah, it's gone out. There's one Blockbuster store still open. It's in Bend, Oregon, and they did a movie on it. And the movie, you don't need to watch. It actually was not very well made movie, but the point behind it that was so good. I think they were trying to make it like a movie that you should watch, especially if you're into music, called All Things Must Pass. You can remember that because that's the name of a George Harrison song. But the movie All Things Must Pass was about Tower Records, and that was a record store, like the benchmark of all record stores. And they used to be huge, huge everywhere. And, you know, with CDs and streaming and stuff, they've gone out. So there was a film made about the stores, and actually it was made by Tom Hanks' son, I think. I don't think it was his brother. I think it was his son that made the movie. But it's very good. You should mark that one down to watch it. But anyways, I was watching The Last Blockbuster, and although the movie wasn't talking about anything we didn't know, they had a store, they rented videos, they went out of business. I was so impressed with the woman who was running this Last Blockbuster store up in Oregon, because her customer service was so stellar that, I mean, it shook me, because I haven't seen people go to that extent on treating people so nicely. Like, all of her employees, she treated like family. She would close the store frequently to have a big family dinner for the employees, and they'd all come over and they'd have hot dogs together and corn on the cob or whatever. It's nothing fancy, but it was so special. And one of the stores, they had to close for a week because one of the moms went into labor with her kid, and they were like, okay, no problem, we'll just close the store because you're having a baby. And I mean, it was over the top good customer service, and this woman is still running. That's why that store is still functioning, is because of her, not because.
Is this a true story, or is this in the movie?
No, it's a true story.
Oh, really?
It's a documentary. Yeah. So this lady is up there doing her thing. Her name is Sandy Harding, and Sandy with an I. And you can Google her, and she should be teaching customer service classes, because I today went to mail some packages to you and your brother. Little spring care packages.
Is this gonna sound like a Karen moment?
No, I didn't Karen at all. I was so calm today. I was like so proud of myself, because I was just like, whatever, water off a duck's back. You're having a bad day and you're a hateful person, but I'm not.
And I'd secretly like to smite you.
I have mailed packages to England a lot, because both you and your brother live over there. And so I've sent over packages all the time. I know how much they cost. I know how to go through it. I know how to do the paperwork. I'm familiar with the process. So I went into this store. We live in this little town in Florida. It's pretty small and it's pretty remote. So we have one store, and back home I would use a store called Postal Annex. Many people know them. They're chains, and it was great. And the people who run those, again, great customer service. You walk in, they go, hey Ellen, how's it going? Hey, I have to mail a package off to my daughter. Oh, great, is she still over, you know? And so they just know you, and they really treat you like a person, not just serving customer number 12, which was great. They don't have Postal Annexes here, but they do have a place to ship, a store. I won't name it. Which is fine.
Kind of you.
So I got there today. What's that?
I said that's kind of you.
So I got there, and the line was so long in the store that I actually had to stand outside the store to wait my turn. And it's fine. I just stood there and waited my turn. I had a Starbucks. I was very happy to sit and wait my turn in line. The guy in front of me had something he was shipping. So the line moved up, and I finally got in the store, and we were waiting. I was probably waiting a good 10 minutes, I would think, and there were still 6 people in front of me or something. It was ridiculous. But anyways, one of the ladies came out from the back, and she just was, anybody quickly need to get anything through, and I thought that was good. She was trying to move people along who had something quick. And she asked the guy, because he was holding this big, it looked like an architect folder, big long tube. Okay. And she's like, what can I help you with that? And he said, I have to return it. She said, do you have the paperwork? And he said, yeah, right here. And it had a QR code on it. And she said, oh, we can't do that for you. And he goes, I was told to bring it here. And she said, who told you? Doesn't matter who told. So he said, I've got the QR code. Can we just scan this? She goes, oh no, UPS is the only people that can scan a QR code. Which I knew right then and there was a blatant lie, because I have a QR code scanner on my phone. You can download those. Anybody can scan those. So she gave him this song and a dance about UPS. They're so bad, they have the monopoly on a QR code scanner, and you can't return your thing. So he got really annoyed, because he'd been waiting online like I had for a good 10 minutes, and now he's finding out he can't even return his thing. So he went off. I felt bad for him. And we waited, and I was chatting with the lady behind me, and we're having a good old day. And so I finally make my way up there, and I'm waiting behind. There's 3 other people up at the front, and I'm noticing that everybody in front of me who had something was told they couldn't ship it. It was kind of like the Monty Python cheese shop scene, if you know that shop scene. That's very funny. Guy goes into a cheese shop to get some cheese, and they don't sell cheese there. But anyways, so all these people were trying to ship something, and they're being told they can't. Either they don't have the right paperwork, or their label is wrong, or they can't use that box. They have to buy a box from these people. And by the way, our boxes are $10 a piece. Whatever. It felt like these people just did not want to do business today. Bad day. I don't know. And so I was listening to the woman in front of me, and she got everything set, and she had the wrong label, but they remade the label for her, all good. And then they said, "What's in the box?" And the lady's ready to type, "What's in the box?" And she said, "My brother's ashes."
Oh my God.
I know. I was like, ooh. And I thought, okay, everybody's been told no. There's no way that box is getting out of the store today. There's just no way. So I was like bending my ear to listen to this. And so the lady was like, oh, okay. So she went off to the back, and she was asking another guy. And he looked over and he said, "You can't ship it in that box." And I thought, there we go. And so they just tried to sell her some kind of padding, and there needed to be some kind of like, I don't know. I don't even know what it was. They would.
For ashes, I actually don't have a problem with them saying like you should ship it in this kind of box with padding, because if that thing spills, you know how you've seen those videos of those postal workers like that, I mean, no disrespect for them because I pen pal and I'm very thankful that my letters get where they need to go. But there are some videos of postal workers, not all of them obviously, but some of them just like throwing that stuff like all over the place and stuff. So like, you know, if that were to happen with a box with ashes in it, dude, that's going, oh my God. I just can't even imagine that happen. So if they're trying to get her the right padding, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
I know. It was a recipe for failure. I was just like, oh my God, here we go. So anyways, she ended up leaving because she didn't want to pay the $10 for the extra box. She was like, I'm out of here. So all these people were not really getting served. They were getting annoyed and leaving. And I thought, this is not going well. So anyways, I got up there, next customers. I came up and I said, I need to mail these 2 packages to England. And they went, England? And I thought, the UK? I thought, why it was. She just looked like, oh, I don't know how to do that. And I thought, oh, this isn't going to go well. And another lady came from behind, and she said, "Those are going to England?" And I said, yes, I'd like them to go to England. She said, "Well, there's a new rule." And I thought, here we go. She said, this just came out. You have to homogenize is the word she used. You have to homogenize everything that's in the package. So we're going to have to unpack it and then create a barcode for everything and then scan it in separately so that can go on the customs paperwork. And I thought,
just sounds like these people are conning people out of their money.
I know. I thought, first of all, I thought you're high. That's completely not true. But she's like, yeah, this just went into effect yesterday. And I thought, no, it didn't. No, it didn't. And so
show me the receipts.
She was going on, and I said, okay, what will that cost me to do? And she said, well, we're not going to be able to get it out today because it's going to take too long. And I was in there probably about 11:30 in the morning. She said, we're not going to be able to get it out today. Total negative. And she said, it's probably going to cost about $50 to do that, plus the shipping. And, you know, if I ship a small box to you,
that's not cheap.
It's $50 to get it to you. So I thought, okay, I got 2 boxes plus that is $150 to get these 2 packages out. And I said, okay, no problem. I just won't ship them. Thank you so much. And I was very kind to her. I even touched her on the hand and said, no problem. Thank you very much. And I left. And I thought, this is BS. So I went up the street not up the street. It's actually probably 4 or 5 miles out of my way. But it was a UPS store in Punta Gorda, Florida. Hail to the UPS store. They were great. I came in and asked them, can I get this to the UK? And they said, yes, but UPS isn't the cheapest way. You probably want to go via post office. And I thought, wow, that's nice even to tell me that their way is not the cheapest. And I asked if I could ship it through them, and they were like, yeah, we'll take care of it for you, no problem. And so we started doing it, and then one of the things that I sent to your brother, I didn't send to you because it involves peanuts, but I sent it to him. They saw it in the package, and they said, wow, where'd you get that? And I said, oh, I got it at yada yada. And they said, oh, don't go there, you got to bring your business to us. And they were joking about it, and I thought, that's all fine. It was very casual. And then the lady who was helping me, she looked up and she went, did you try to ship this there? And I said, I did. And she said, did they charge you $35 to do the paperwork? And I said, no, $50. And she goes, why did they do that? Do they not want customers? And she lamented that she gets customers in there all the time that come from that place, and they're told that they have to pay all this extra money to do the paperwork. And she goes, we don't have to create a barcode. We just type it in. And she goes, you know what? I'll do that for free for you. I said, thank you very much. And they handled it just like our postal annex, and out the door I was in. Much better. So customer service
can make or break.
Right. It really does. This place seemed like they just did not want anybody to do business with them today. I just did not understand what it was all about. I to this minute, I don't know why. Why wouldn't they help you with that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Astonishing. I do remember I was at Stonehenge once, and I'd been there a couple times. I think it was the time that we took you to Stonehenge, and we got the little headphone thingies.
Yes.
To listen to. We got there, and because your dad and I had been, we started walking around, and then we saw people holding on to the little things like a museum. You listen to the push button number 12.
The little devices that like give you historical information.
Yeah, and we saw people with those, which we hadn't seen in the past, and so we thought, oh, we want one of those. And so we doubled back and went to the entry, and I remember asking, there was a lady there, where can I get one of those headsets? And she said, we told you when you came in. Said it just like that. And I said, oh, I must have missed it. And she said, they're right over there.
Oh my God.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Yikes.
Delightful.
I
guess.
kind of lose my patience with stuff like that. Being somebody who's worked in customer service.
Exactly.
It's so frustrating because there's problems on both ends of the cashier table, because as somebody who's been in customer service, because I used to be a Starbucks barista when I was in high school, and being a Starbucks barista, I would get people that came up to me, customers that were unbelievably rude, and I did everything in my power not to spit in their drink. Like, it was so infuriating. You know, here's a story on the other side of the spectrum, but my point is, before I tell that, is
you wouldn't really spit in a drink, would you?
I would never. Just for legal purposes, I would never spit in somebody's drink. Also, I just would never spit in somebody's drink. But
most people don't.
Yeah. It's just hard because as somebody that's worked as customer service, I can understand like why somebody would get so frustrated in customer service when you get those customers that are so unbelievably mean. But also, like, there was one customer that I had at Starbucks that was always so rude to me, and anytime, like, as soon as she left and I was turned to the next customer, it was like that had never even happened. And I was just like, okay, how can I help the next customer? They did nothing to me. Why would I just like hit them with, what do you want? Like, no. Anyways, this customer they weren't a regular, but they were frequent enough that we recognized them, like coming back in, but I wouldn't consider them to have come frequently enough to be like, oh yes, they're a regular. Anyways, I'm trying not to, I don't want to say anything specific about this person's order or anything, but I will fully admit, take full responsibility, while I was in training on 2 separate occasions, I made their drink wrong. Two separate times that they came in, like once on a Monday and once on a Thursday or something. I made their drink wrong because I was in training and I didn't know. I was still learning the recipes and memorizing them as a barista. And so the first time I was like, I'm so sorry, let me remake that for you. On us, obviously, all this stuff. And the second time I was on shift with one of my coworkers, obviously because I was still in training, so I was, always on shift with somebody that wasn't in training, that was doing the training. And the second time they came back and they were like, this drink is made wrong. And I said the same thing. I'm so sorry. Still in training. Let me remake that for you. I'd be happy to. I'm so sorry about the inconvenience. And they turned to my coworker and they said these exact words. This is the second time this has happened now. And both times it's been when she made the drink. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm still in training and I don't have the recipes memorized. Can I please remake that for you? I said that. And they turned back to my coworker and said, can you please make it this time and have her watch. And I almost put my hand through the wall. I was infuriated. And I sat down and took it, and I was like, okay, I'm watching, I'm learning, I know how to make this drink. It's never going to happen again. And then a separate time, this was the whole site. So since then, in my training, for the rest of the time that I interacted with this customer while I still worked there before I went off to college, they just never had any trust in me because of that. Like, anytime I made the drink, they were just like really skeptical about my baristaing abilities. But one time they came and ordered a drink for their child, who was about my age. They were a teenager. Like, they could have functioned on their own, but whatever. And so they ordered, it was a Frappuccino for their child. And there's 2 Frappuccinos at Starbucks that are the exact same. And the only difference between the 2 is one has coffee and one doesn't. One has a coffee base in it, and the other one is just a milk base. And they ordered the one with a coffee base. So I put coffee in it. They came back, the parent and the child came back, and I was like, oh no, here it comes. And so I was like, hi, was there an issue with your drink? And it was the parent with the kid, and the kid said, this tastes like coffee. And I said, you ordered this Frappuccino, correct? And they said, yes. And I was like, well, that would be because it has a coffee base in it. And I was like, did you not want it to have coffee in it? And they said, no, I don't like the flavor of coffee. So I was like, okay, let me remake it without the coffee base. And what I said was, I was like, yeah, let me remake that for you without the coffee in it. And I said, in the future, if you order it with this title at any Starbucks, this won't happen. You won't get the coffee base, and you won't have to come back and ask for it remade. And I was like, they're the same drink, and one has a coffee base and one doesn't. I explained that. And the parent leaned in and said, it's not your job to correct my child. It's your job to remake the drink. And I almost walked out of behind the counter. I was so mad. I almost went and got the manager and was like, you need to deal with this because I can't. There are very few times where I get so frustrated that I tear up, but that was one of them. I was trying to hold back my tears of anger. I was so mad. And I was like, I didn't say this, but I was like, I'm not correcting your child. I'm trying to help. Because if you keep ordering it the way that they ordered the drink, they're going to keep getting the coffee-based drink. And they're going to have to keep coming back. So I was like, if you order it with this phrase, this drink, it's the exact same thing, but it doesn't have the coffee. So if you order it this way, you'll get the drink you're wanting. And I was like, but the way you're ordering it, you're going to get coffee in it, and you're going to have to keep Karening. And just like, it's not your job to correct my child. It's your job to remake the drink. And I was like, I can't do this. That was a moment I don't get paid enough for this. I was like, I can't do this. I can't. I was like, this is the end of the line for me. I have officially become deceased. I
have talent. I'm a musician. I don't
I don't need this.
Oh, I know. It's tough. Customer service is tough. The customer's always right, though. You always have to dial back to that. The customer is always right, regardless. Even if the customer's wrong, they're right.
Yeah,
and I've been in that same place, so I get it.
I feel bad even just like telling that story publicly, because I honestly I'm not trying to like roast that customer. I'm trying to even keep pronouns out of it to like really keep it anonymous. I'm not saying what drink they ordered or anything, or their pronouns or their child's pronouns or anything. Like, I'm keeping it out of it, so hopefully it's anonymous enough. But that was a true story. Very frustrating. My voice, I feel like, was trembling that whole time with anger.
Oh, really?
I was like,
yeah. You just have to, the biggest thing is just to kind of go, okay, in the scheme of life, we are not curing world hunger here. We're making coffee. Okay, if I made it wrong, I'll make it again. That's what it is. Sorry.
It's weird because, it's not weird. But I care less about the fact that I got the drink wrong. Like, yeah, I got the drink wrong when I was in training. I don't care. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me remake that for you. I care that this person was like that they called me out so many times just to a point of them thinking that I was unintelligent enough to be like, can you please watch your coworker make this or whatever. I was like, excuse you, that is so rude.
That's really rude.
It's just, I hate when people talk down to me like that. It's just that was the issue I had, not that I made the drink wrong. And I wasn't I didn't lose sleep over that. I was like, okay, I made the drink wrong. Bummer. Like, I accidentally put too much water in this drink. Oh, woe is me, or whatever the mistake was. I don't know. Yeah, that's my story.
You've survived it. Well, let's go on, because that's kind of, it transitions actually very nice to our gens.
Our gens.
Gen. Yeah, which gen is better? You are a Gen Z.
I'm a Gen Z.
You are not a millennial. A
Gen
Z.
Z.
What's that?
A Gen Z.
That's right.
Say in the UK.
Yeah, ZSL.
Are you ready for Jones fun facts? Do you know why in America why we call it Z instead of Z?
Do tell.
Because this is literally the only reason. In America, well, anywhere, but specifically bothered the Americans, I guess. But in the alphabet, Z does not rhyme. So Z does not rhyme. So they changed it to Z. TUVWXYNZ. They changed it to rhyme because TUVWXYNZ.
Is that right?
That is what I've heard. I actually have not fact checked that fun fact, but I mean it makes sense. That was the reasoning I heard why they changed it to Z and not Z.
You're giving me an undocumented fun fact that's not.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I did not fact check that, but I will report to you back next week if the Z switch is
I am curious
correct.
Though. Yeah, the Z is why they all call it.
We also call it in America. We call the letter H, but they say H with a H in the front of it here. Like H&M here is H here, or in the UK is pronounced like H&M is H&M.
No, it's not.
With like a breath. I'm dead serious.
Really? I've never heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah, people are like H&M. And I'm
That's
like,
funny
are you hungry? Like
for herbs?
Yeah, like it's very breathy, but it's H.
That's funny because if you go far enough north, they don't have an H at all.
I am north.
Far, like up in Newcastle and stuff, they would think my name is Helen, Helen, and they would call me Ellen because they just don't pronounce the H.
I've never heard that.
Oh yeah, listen to the northern accents. There's no H in them at all.
I know people. There are a ton of people in Leeds that are like from like Newcastle and stuff, and I've never heard them say that.
Do they say how are you, or do they say how are you? How are you doing?
I think they say. Actually, they don't say how are you at all because the phrase here is are you all right, which that's another thing in the UK that always throws me off. Is it's really common like when you walk into a room and you greet somebody in the States. One of my first casual conversation starters is how are you?
How you doing?
Yeah, how are you? And here, that phrase is, are you all right? Like, hey, are you all right? Like, how's it going? Kind of thing. And it has the same meaning. But in the States, if I were to say that to someone, are you all right? Or somebody said it to me, it carries an unspoken connotation that you don't look all right.
That's right.
That it's like, I would say that to somebody who looks like they've just been crying. Oh, are you all right?
Right.
Kind of thing. So the first time I heard it here and I walked in and they were like, oh, are you all right? I was like, yeah, and I got like defensive. And I was like, do I not look all right? And I got like, at first I was like kind of offended and I was like, I think I look fine. And then like 2 seconds later I was like, am I dressed okay? And like I got like all self-conscious and they were just like making casual conversation. And it took me probably like a couple days because it was all my flatmates do it too and people at my school and stuff like that. But it took me a couple of times hearing it to realize that it was like just a filler thing. But at first I thought people were like, you just look crazy or something like that. And I was like, but no, that's what they say is they say, are you all right? Like when I walk into the kitchen, are you all right? I never know how to respond to that. I just go, yeah, you? That's how I typically say.
Yeah, what did they say to each other? Have you ever listened to that as an observer?
Yeah, I actually have. I was like, how are you supposed to respond to that? And most people seem to say like, yeah, you? And then people are like, oh, fine, thanks. But it just like kind of took me aback because I wasn't sure if like you were supposed to respond in the same way. Like if you say what's up, you don't actually like. I think the most literal response you say to what's up is nothing much. But most people, they just kind of are like, hey, yo, what's up? Yeah, what's up? Like you say a question back to the question. So I wasn't sure if sometimes I like still freak out and somebody says, "Are you all right?" And I just hit them right back with, "Are you all right?" Like, like, no, you, Uno reverse, my friend. Are you doing okay? Like, I just like, it kind of freaks me out. It's the art of me not knowing small talk and not liking small talk very much. So I just like never really know, but I had to like study people and be like, are you supposed to respond with another question, or are you actually supposed to answer the question? Very confusing things in the life of Joan as a 19-year-old living on her own in a foreign country.
And didn't you flip someone off inadvertently the other day?
2 people, one person in my studio group and my flatmate, because if you're watching on YouTube and you can see me, I'll just show you the gesture, but if you're just listening, I'll describe it. A peace sign with your thumb facing the other person is fine. That just means peace. But a peace sign backwards, where your palm, the top of your hand, is facing the other person and your thumb is pointing towards yourself, that's rude, and it means up yours, basically, here. It's like the equivalent of the middle finger, though the middle finger is also very rude here. But 2 times I have accidentally like been leaving somewhere and I've been like, peace out, and I do exactly what I just did on camera. Yeah, I basically just go peace, and because I don't think it's rude, and both times I've had to been like, oh, I meant that as a peace sign. Like and it makes me like it makes me sound like really really uncool and like really socially awkward, but I'm like, I meant that the American way, okay? Okay? Glad we're establishing that. I'm not trying to be rude, okay? Like
I can imagine just going, yeah, peace, man. That would be quite rude.
One time specifically, the second time I did it, I was leaving my kitchen and coming back to my room, and my flatmate was in there, and I was really tired, so we were like kind of just like not really talking, and I just kind of got sick of sitting there, and I was like, I'm gonna go introvert. So I literally got up and I was like, okay, I'm leaving, bye. And that was like word for word what I said. It was very straightforward. But I had actually this water bottle, and I had a straw, and I said, okay, I'm leaving, bye, and I put my straw in my mouth, and then he said bye, and I was drinking, and I just did this as bye, and I was like, peace kind of thing. But then I realized that I just left the room and flipped him off, and so I walked back like 2 seconds later, and I was like, I meant that this way, not the rude way. And I was like, peace out, bro. And then I just left.
Did he know that ahead of time?
Yeah. He was very chill with it. Both times that happened, one, I corrected it and was like, whoa, didn't mean it that way. But both people that it happened to were very chill about it, and they were like, yeah, no offense taken.
Now, what's going on with the eggplant emoji over there?
What do you mean?
Okay, so I was talking to Simon. I've skipped over our Jen thing. We'll come back to that, and I've gone straight on to culture classes. But that's just what I'm doing. When Simon first got to London, he sent a text to somebody, and he used an eggplant emoji. What does that mean in America? The eggplant emoji? To me, it means eggplants.
I'm thinking I know what it means, but I also don't want to say just yet, because I would imagine what it means here means the same thing in America. I think it's a teen hidden meaning. So I'm very confused as to why he would have used it, if I'm thinking of the right thing. What happened? Continue the story.
I don't know. He used it on a text, and a bunch of his friends got offended, and one of them very kindly took him aside and said, dude, you can't use that here because that really is an offensive. It's kind of like an F you kind of thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he used it in a text, and one of them very kindly took him aside and goes, okay, we know you're an American, and you have no idea what we're doing over here, but that you can't use that emoji here.
The eggplant emoji?
The eggplant emoji, yeah, go figure.
Is rude. Oh, okay.
Yes.
In the one that I'm thinking of is, I feel very awkward that this is a mother-daughter podcast right now, but the eggplant emoji is supposed to represent a guy's thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I imagine Simon probably made an inappropriate "that's what she said" joke or something along the lines and put the eggplant emoji, because that's what it means in the States. The same way the peach emoji often represents booty. So that's what I thought it meant. So I wasn't thinking that it was rude. It's supposed to be a guy's. Yeah.
I don't know. You'd have to.
I didn't realize that was rude, but I never used the eggplant emoji anyways. I didn't use it in the States either, so guess I'm out of the water.
I use the thumbs up. What are your favorite emojis? I use the thumbs up. I use the guy. Do you guys, do you know what that is?
The okay?
Is that is that a generation? Yeah, okay. Yeah. I cry hilariously laughing.
Mm-hmm.
That's my normal state.
Nice one. I'm gonna look forward to editing that back when it's just the audio and just hearing like, ha, ha. You know? Continue. What are some ones that you like?
I could look at my phone, but it's recording this.
Mm-hmm.
I do like that. I don't often use the sad face. Oh, I use the one that goes a lot.
Oh, okay. Valid. I
Yeah.
really like the blushing one with the little hearts by the side. That's like with the little
Oh,
hearts.
yeah.
That one.
You do
That
send
one's
that
probably
one.
my most used one because it allows me to connect emotionally when I don't. No, I use a lot of emojis when I'm texting internet friends, people that I've never met in real life, because I have a lot of internet friends and pen pals that I talk to that way. And so some of them I don't text like as informally as I would text like my best friend or my flatmate, who we text like very like yo kind of thing. But like my internet friends or people that I'm encouraging with studying and stuff like that, I send it as like a little like kind of thing. I send the two eyes that are like just looking to the side all the time, and that's supposed to be like you're making like big eyes at somebody. So like often I'll send it.
Oh, those eyes. Gotcha.
Yeah, often I'll send it when I mean like, hey, like I'll send it to my flatmate and I'll be like, do you want to go get boba? And then I'll put that eye emoji, and it means like we could be getting boba. Like that's like the big eye thing that I mentioned. And then I also send the horse, the horse.
I've never used the horse.
The realistic horse with the green saddle on that's like galloping. It's one of my favorite ones, and I just started using that one recently. And that one is like, I can't even verbally describe it, but I always use it when I'm referencing movement of some sort. But like in a meme funny way, I guess. Like like, you know, like when Get This Bread was like really, really popular, like, hey, yo, let's get this bread. Do you remember that phrase? Okay, yeah. Well, there's a really common phrase, like probably when I was like a junior in high school a couple years ago, to say, let's get this bread. And it means like, let's do it. Let's get this bread. Like, that's like kind of like what it was supposed to be. I would send, like, if I theoretically were to send that phrase, like, let's get this bread, I'd put the horse emoji. So it'd be like, we're going to go get this bread. You know? I also use the skull emoji a lot because it symbolizes like, well, I mean, it symbolizes death, but not in the way you're thinking. Like death with embarrassment. Like yikes! So embarrassed that I just died. Like big L. Like it's like big L kind of thing. So like I'll be like, bro, big eye emoji, and then I'll be like, did you see that one thing? Death of skull like emoji kind of thing, and it means like, bro, big eyes. Like, what about this one embarrassing thing? Death, you know. That's like when I text really informally. So those are probably the emojis I use the most.
Nice.
Yeah.
Generation things. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Okay, going back to my gen thing.
Okay.
My gen thing. I want to talk about which one's the better of generations and why, because I think we are far superior to you guys.
Wow.
Okay, so
egotistical.
I know, right? Okay, so your generation are the millennials
Are you just gonna slam me right now?
No, not at all. No. Oh, look at that.
I said, poor babe can get roasted.
No. So millennials, I thought you were a millennial, but they're the people only born to 1996. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'm a Gen Z.
You are a Gen Z. And a Gen X is my generation. City years.
Okay. So why did they skip Gen Y? Why is it Gen X, Millennial, Gen Z? Why isn't it Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z?
Is there not a Gen Y?
Well, if it's before Gen X, that's even more sacrilegious because that's just not in alphabetical order.
That's right.
So why would it be X, Millennial, Z, or even worse, Y, X, Millennial, Z?
Gen Y. Millennials are they Gen Y or Gen Z? Oh, here we go. Gen Y age range.
Oh, there is a Gen Y.
Born 1981 to 94. Oh, it's also a millennial. That's what the millennial.
Okay,
is.
okay,
Is that
okay.
what you just
So,
said?
okay, yeah. That makes more sense. So millennial, I guess, is like a slang term, maybe?
Probably.
And Gen Y is like more proper. Okay, makes way more sense to be Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z. Whew, I feel better. Continue.
You're with OCD all there. Okay, so there were some internet arguments a few weeks ago, and I was talking about this, and this is when this whole thing came up because I thought it was the most ridiculous thing I had ever heard. And it was millennials, so not your group, thank you,
The group above me.
bashing people where they parted their hair.
I remember you telling me about this.
Yes, and so they were going on that if you were cool and if you were you had to look a certain way and you had to part your hair down the middle of your head, not off to the side.
Middle pot gang,
Not
what's
off
up?
to the side, yeah. What is that all about?
I have never heard that. I only heard that from you. And I'm sure it's a meme and it's a joke. I'm sure. And it's meant as a joke. Like, haha, cool kids only part their hair the middle way. Or whatever. But
Why does it
also,
matter?
I think that... I think it's just like a... Those kind of jokes can always be dangerous because it puts on a stereotype and all that stuff. But it's meant as a joke. In the same way, like... my flatmates, so 2 of my flatmates and I are like a little trio of a group, and we really like Myers-Briggs. So I'm INTJ, and one of our flatmates ISTP, and then our other flatmates INFP. And so the 2 of us are T's, like thinkers, and then one of us is like a feeler. And both all the times we'll be like, haha, imagine being a feeler. Like just that kind of thing. Anytime they say like anything like slightly like that involves any emotion at all, we're just like, haha, imagine having feelings. Couldn't be us, thinking gang, ayo, like kind of thing. So I think it's like kind of like that. Obviously, like I don't hate anybody that is an F for any reason in a Myers-Briggs type or whatever kind of thing. We're just like, kind of joking. I think it's something kind of similar to like that, and it's like, haha, imagine having a side part. Lol, couldn't be me.
Exactly.
But,
now,
yeah.
I don't know. I think people from my generation, I've forgotten where I am, Gen X, is that where I said I was?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think looking at these younger generations, and it's hard because none of us want to say, oh, kids these days, but I honestly feel kids these days, I don't understand the superfluous categorizing of things and people. It just it makes no sense to me why there's even any minuscule of brain power put into the thought process.
Most of it, I say most of it because some of it does not fall into this category. Most of it is a joke. And this is where the Gen Zs will get frustrated with the Gen Xs, is because I feel like even if you understand that it's a joke, it turns into a lecture. And it becomes, well, why are you putting that into a category? Don't you think you should be a little more open-minded? And it's like, no, dude, it was a joke. Chill. Bro, come on, dude. Like, imagine being a Gen X. Couldn't be me. And obviously there are times where that does not apply, and it's like, okay, no, this is a serious thing. People, are like, oh, I fit into this category. I'm a jock, or I'm a blah, or a blah. And then it turns into like, yeah, why are you actually putting yourself, you don't need to put a label on yourself or kind of thing. But I think especially when it comes to being on the internet, like things with the side part and stuff, on the internet, there's a lot of that, and it's anything you see on the internet, I was going to say don't take it seriously, but a lot of things, specifically from Gen X specifically from Gen Z and millennials, I'd say too, it's like meant to be a meme, to be a joke most of the time. I feel like when you're on that side of the internet, that's like funny, comedic when you're looking at memes and stuff like that. So yes. Don't take it too seriously.
Well, these people with this stupid part thing were going after people and like hating on them. There were some nasty tweets. It was nasty what I was seeing.
Okay, maybe I was wrong. I haven't seen this, so I don't want to speak on their behalf and like defend them if they were actually like going after people. I don't know.
I think growing up in the age that you guys did with all of the internet, I mean, I was thinking about this when I was prepping all this, and I thought, you guys grew up, and I always think of kids around 8 and 10 is when you kind of come into cognizance of the world around you and stuff. From that time, I mean, you really didn't know a world without cell phones. You didn't know a world without DVDs, like even a VCR. Did you really
Yeah.
You had some.
We had the VCR, and I
Scooby-Doo's.
know we had a VCR because the VCR, like, rewind that we put it in
Oh, that's
scared
right.
the absolute crap out of me because it would just open as soon as it was
pop
done,
up.
and I kept
Yeah.
getting jump scared by it. Maybe
Yeah.
that's why I can't get jump scared anymore, because that always scared the crap out of me as a kid, and now I'm just, like, immune. And, like, my flatmate tries to jump scare me all the time, and it just, like, never works.
Like, yeah.
I literally am just kind of like, okay.
Like, you guys
Hey.
have all this technology around you, and that's all you've ever known. So I know a lot of people say, "Oh, you guys have too much social media and that kind of thing," and that's where all these hate crimes and all this stuff. I didn't want to get political, so I'm kind of pulling back on that. But all that, it's what you guys know, so you can't really complain about it. It's all you know, truly. And one of the things they were showing on this movie about Blockbuster last night is they were talking about a floppy disk. Do you know what a floppy disk is?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
Don't
They
do
said
that.
that.
Don't.
No, I want-
No.
no.
Don't do that. Don't you dare awe me. No. Incorrect.
No.
Thank you for playing. I quit the podcast. That zero tolerance. When I say I don't know something, if somebody goes, "Aw,"
no,
we're
the reason
instantly
I s-
enemies.
I'm
I
kind
don't
of
want to
laughing
talk
at
to you
myself
anymore.
here.
Unship your package. I don't care. I'm breaking our Snapchat streak. We're over.
The reason I'm doing that is more toward me because I was watching that movie and I thought, my kids know what a floppy disk is, and there you were saying you didn't. I thought, oh my God, I'm so out of touch.
Maybe
with how much-
there's a chance I might know it and just might not know if that was the term.
Yeah, it's funny. They were talking about, video, the days of videos. It's just, when videos first came out, they had two different tapes. They had a VCR, which is a video cassette recorder, and they had a Betamax recorder. Do you know what Betamax is? Have you ever heard of those? They were funky. They looked like a regular VCR, but it was different. And there was like this competition to see which one was gonna succeed, and Betamax went by the wayside. But I should have bought a bunch of VCRs when they were starting to go by the wayside because they got so cheap. You could pick one up for like $30. And now I wanted to convert some of our old things. Like I have a video of you being born. That's a
Oh,
pretty
lovely.
cool thing. Well, I don't know.
I'm
That's
sorry.
pretty cool.
That was me being an INTJ. I'm so sorry. You were like, I have this heartfelt video of you being born, and I was like, lol, ew. Sorry.
What?
Continue.
Anyways,
Continue.
No, it's a very nice, clean video, and lots of videos of you and your brother when you were just teeny tiny that are amazing to watch. But they're all on video. They're all on cassette, and I need to get them either onto Google Drive or a DVD at the very least. And I went on Amazon the other day to try to buy a VCR to get a new one because my last one broke. And they're like $800 now. They're like impossible to get.
Yeah.
I'm so sad about that. Sad. Cultures. What do you think about our generation? Oh, I thought you were going to roll your eyes.
No. It's not. I really don't know what to think because I've always been somebody, even as a kid, it's very weird. I just get along with people that are older than me. Typically, like as a kid, making friends with other kids my age was very weird, and I wasn't very good at it. And I'd always I remember. This is a very vivid memory of my childhood. I got invited to a birthday party in elementary school, and we all went to the mall, and I think we were making Build-A-Bears or something, and we stopped at the food court, and we're sitting and all eating Subway, I think, and everybody was sitting, and there must have been like at least over 5 kids, and the birthday party that we were at, there were obviously parents and the kids' grandparents were there as well. And I remember there was an uneven amount of us because we couldn't all fit at one table. And so I was like, I don't mind sitting with the adults. So I went and I sat with the adults just while we had lunch. And I was like, yeah, it's not a big deal. So I went and sat over there, and I was just like quietly eating my sandwich. And I remember I had this super in-depth conversation with the kid's grandparent, who was like, actually for a grandparent, very quite young. They were fit grandma, yeah. But I must have been 8 or 9 at the time, and I can't remember what we were having conversations of, but it started off with them saying that I had like really nice table manners, and I was like, thank you, I'm actually taking cotillion or something like that, and I kind of got onto that portion, and then we talked she was, asking me like, oh, what are some things you like to do, what are your hobbies, and I mentioned that I liked reading and all this stuff, and I remember her like saying to me, this is a very vivid memory, and she was saying, you're really, really mature for your age, at like 8 or 9, and I was like, oh, thank you. And she asked me like something along I'm gonna phrase it wrong and it's gonna sound weird the way I say it, because it wasn't I didn't take it offensively, but she asked something along the lines of, do you ever struggle making friends your age? And it wasn't meant in a rude way, the way she said it. At least I didn't take it that way. And I was like, yeah, I typically get bored with people my age, kind of thing. And she was saying like something like, you seem really, really smart, like, don't let people, the moral of her story was like, don't let people your age like make you feel like you have to like conform to their types and like, wither yourself down to be one of the crowd or whatever. And it's just like a very vivid memory I have, because I took a lot out of that conversation as like a little kid, especially because I've never been great at making friends. Like, that's not it doesn't go on my special skills in my resume. And that's not a bad thing. But, like, I always, like, felt as, like, a younger kid, especially because I was very much a bookworm, that, like, a lot of my other friends don't have the same hobbies and stuff that I did as a kid, because I just liked absorbing information. And kids, in elementary school that I was friends with just wanted to go play on the playground, and that just wasn't my shindig. And I took a lot out of that conversation, and I think about that when people ask me how I feel about the older generations, because a lot of older generations, I think when I'm talking with somebody who's not necessarily a Gen Z, and they might be Gen Y, they might be Gen X, I feel like I can have some really nice in-depth conversations with them, but I also feel, on the other hand, that I can get written off by them because I'm younger than them, and that's very frustrating. Because I feel like instantly, because I'm younger, it turns into, you don't know. And it's not, who knows, maybe I don't know, but telling me I don't know is an instant way to discourage me from even wanting to have the conversation.
Right.
Which is the frustrating thing. If I don't know, I'd love for you to inform me. I love learning new information. Are you kidding me? And being taught, if somebody takes the time to teach me something, that makes me look up and admire people even more, because I am just a person that, like, I want to be like a sponge and just, like, absorb every little bit of knowledge I can. I just like sucking in new information. So when somebody takes the time to teach me something, it makes me admire them a lot. But if it turns into, you're too young to understand, you don't know, or kids these days, this kind of conversation, not roasting you because I know you just said that, but like just like that idea, it makes me lose patience very quickly, because it's very close-minded. And it's frustrating because I find adults, who they're now adults, or older generations, who say things like kids these days, or kind of things, when they're in that mindset of these kids don't know or whatever. It's very close-minded, but also how are you going to learn from me? Because you never stop learning, ever. You can learn things from people that are younger than you, and you can learn things from people that are older than you. And we can have a civilized conversation as adults, and we can talk through either things I'm not educated on, and you can teach me something, I can teach you something. Or if we have a disagreement on something, we can talk it out like adults, and, I can understand your perspective on something, and you can understand my perspective on something, if you're not closed-minded, which is very frustrating. And I feel like that happens a lot in older generations. Not that it doesn't happen in Gen Z. I'm sure there's plenty of Gen Zs that are like, no, no. But that's just like where I see frustration with the older generation, especially with the technology, when it's all you know is technology. And I'm not saying you said that at all.
No, I get it though. Yeah.
did you know, another rendition of Jones, fun facts, when books became like a really big thing, when they were like first becoming not just like, oh, recorded information, but fantasy and fiction novels, there was something that actually existed called reading fever, and it was where adults thought people, like young teens, were reading too much. And they were so caught and absorbed in fantasy and fiction worlds that they weren't paying attention enough to everything that was actually happening in the realistic. It's a real thing. Look it up, reading fever. And it was like 18
When did you say it was?
something. It was
19th
when
century?
I think it was 1880s or something. The date could be completely wrong. You might want to fact check that. But it was when books became like fantasy and fiction novels became really, really like modern and like on the up and popular. And now it's turned into like, there's like, you know, phone addiction, and I hear adults all the time saying, why don't you pick up a book? And then it takes me back to when there was reading fever, and there were adults telling kids, you're too absorbed in this fantasy fictional book world, why don't you live in the present? Like, why don't you live in the real world? And so it always seems like there's this lecture from an older generation nailing down a negative on a younger generation, and I think that comes from inexperience of the younger generation, and that's fine, but it also makes me very impatient with that. So that's my 2 cents on the matter.
No, that's really interesting what you were saying. It makes sense that it would be the 19th century. I mean, if you think about it, that's when they were bleeding people who had a fever. You know, let's just bleed them, get some of that blood out of them. It's insane. So some of the ways they say that. You mentioned that kids these days. I laughed when you said that because I have heard that come out of my mouth. And as soon as it does, I always think, that's ridiculous, because I remember being a kid, and it didn't seem that long ago that we were talking about our parents, and my parents seemed so out of touch. I mean, when I was probably 15, my parents were probably 40-ish. They had me in their 30s, I think. So yeah, they were probably 40-ish, but a 40-year-old in the 1970s and 80s was a very old person. They were just old. And a 40-year-old now is a pretty young person. They're pretty young at heart. You know, they probably still listen to Justin Bieber. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But there's no way that when I was growing up that my dad would have been, you know, he wouldn't have been listening to Bobby Sherman or, you know, any of those heartthrob singers at the time. So it's interesting. So whenever I catch myself saying, oh, kids these days, I stop and laugh and think, well, you know, kids these days are pretty cool. And you're right, there's a ton that we can learn from your generation. My God, how many times do I come to you and go, I heard this, what does this mean? I saw that, what does that mean?
I think something that's really important to remember, not like for you, but just like for the world, is that because of the idea that humans never really stop creating, never stop exploring, never stop doing new things, and things are always changing, I think it's important to remember that there will always be a generation gap, but the difference in time between the wideness of that gap depends on how willing each side is to listen to the other. And if it turns into kids these days and why are you lecturing me, the gap only gets wider. But if it's like, okay, let's come to an understanding, the gap can get very thin, and you can understand, at least even if you can't bridge the gap and make it one, you can at least see the other side. You know?
That's from your point of view.
From my point of view.
To an older person, if you could just bridge the gap. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, not necessarily. I'm not talking about bridging the gap, but I feel like there's a gap between generations, between me growing up in a technology world and you not. Like, that's, I don't mean that in like a year old way, but like just like
no,
there's a difference in generations. If there's a gap, there's a gap. And if it turns into kids these days, you'll never understand, and kids being like, don't lecture me, all this stuff, it just makes this gap massively wide. And I don't think because of the generation gap and the differences between the generations that the gap will ever close entirely. But if you stop saying things like kids these days and you actually try and see each other's perspective and have a decent conversation, the gap can come closer, and it can be this level of understanding to the point where it's like, yes, I can see the other side. I can see how you're looking at this situation. I know what you're thinking, and you can understand, and it can be a little more conversational in that matter, because I care about other people's opinions. I want to know what you're thinking, but I don't want to be lectured.
Well, I think what you're saying, and I don't think anybody wants to be lectured. I don't want to be lectured either. One of the reasons I think that you and I have such an open relationship and we can talk about things is because of you being like what you just, no, seriously, being like what you just said, of being open-minded and wanting to learn and wanting to discuss things and understanding and taking the time. All that is great. And when in bringing that into our conversation of the gens that are out there, the gens, I do see many kids your age, young adults, who, I mean, they're all over social media right now, and a couple of them follow me, and I see things they're posting, and I go, that's interesting, because they don't want to be lectured to, and that is fine, but they also want to lecture, and so it's very much a one-way street, and I see people of my generation going, can't have it both ways. If you're going to lecture me on what you may think, be it political or the way you're eating or your health habits or, you know, whatever it is that you're doing, how you're handling COVID, whatever, then be prepared for that lecture to come back to you from my point of view, and then we have a conversation. Yeah. But there's many, many kids, and I have a couple friends, they're younger generation, so they're like a child of a friend of mine, whatever, quite a few who I see on social media, and all they're doing is seeing like different posts from other people and just hitting share on it, reposting. So it's not even their voice, it's not even their conversation. And there's nothing wrong with sharing something like that. You think, okay, well, that's, you know, you saw an article, you saw a picture or a meme or whatever, and you thought that was funny, and so you hit share, fine. But if that's all you're doing, and you're not speaking your own mind, and you're also not listening and talking back on conversations coming to you, then you're just lecturing us, and it's, to me.
Yeah, I think the younger generation, my generation, any young generation, whatever generation happens to be the youngest at whatever given time, always gets into the hard position, not the hard position, can get into the idea of you're old so you don't know what the young hip thing is, and it turns into your opinions invalid, and it's the same way that turns into you're young so you'll never understand, and it's kind 100%. Of both sides have their own version of talk to the hand, and right. If it turns into that, it just like there can never be an open discussion, and I see that a lot when it comes to arguments on Twitter. I was just looking, or any social media, I was just looking at something. I was reading comments of something, and it was one thread of tweets, and people were arguing, and it was just, oh my god, it was like honestly, it was like sudden death. It was like here, like kind of thing. I can't even remember at this point. Because I see it so frequently that I can't remember what it was about. And they were just going after each other, and I was like, okay, I'm done reading this of just people scrutinizing each other and just going after each other and stuff. And so then I went down and read another thread, and it was two people in a disagreement, but they were talking civilly. And I thought it was like, it was one person that was like, I can understand where, like, they literally said, I can understand your viewpoint. And I said, how? And they said, however, I believe that blah, 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 blah would be blah, blah, blah. And they continued the argument. I don't think it was political. I honestly can't remember. I think it was on Twitter too. I'm not even sure. It might have been on Instagram comments, but it was civil. And somebody said something like, something about like, how, did you know that blank and stuff? And the other person was like, I had never heard that. And they were like, can you please leave an article link or wherever you found that so I can read that and become better informed? Nice. And I was like, this is how you have a civil conversation and bridge the gap. Not, no, you're dumb, I only talk to people who believe in my mindset. It's a two-way street, just like you were saying. That's what I believe. And it has to be a conscious effort from both sides.
Yes. I don't see a ton of that from the younger generation. You know, it's nice.
I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see it a lot. I don't see it in my generation, but I also don't see it in the older generation either.
No, I know. I think my gen gets very fed up very quickly with the younger kids, and that's why we end up saying those dreaded words, oh, kids these days. But one of the things I think is you grew up in a really a pretty intellectual area, and you went to a great high school that for most of it that graduated some really level-headed kids, and that group of kids I feel like is obviously not the only ones in the United States, but they're the ones that I'm aware of.
These 12 kids.
Those 12. I'm so familiar with those kids, and I think they're just brilliant. You know, your brother has this group of friends, and you have this group of friends, and that's really nice. And if that's a representation of more of what's in your generation, that's great. That's not what I'm seeing on the broader picture of social media and sometimes around me in the places I live. So I think that's why people my age get fed up with that. I don't know. Who knows? But it's interesting. But I do see out of you that more maturity, like what you were talking about. And I think you're open to stuff. And there's times when I'll say to you, I disagree with you and here's why. And you might get quiet and think, Mom. But you always listen. And you don't necessarily agree with it, but you at least consider it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah,
I try.
I do think that's there, which is nice.
Thanks.
So Gen Z, Gen Y, and now we know who Gen Y is.
Now we know who Gen Y is, so at least we learned one thing.
We looked it up. And so let's wrap up on our language learning. How's it going?
It's going well. I know you have a big update, so I'll let you start.
I know. We were chatting about this a bit offline, that I just opened floodgates this week. And
I'm
for
so proud.
I was so proud too. I was like, wow. For anybody who's trying to learn a new language, as I am, I was struggling so much because anything I was going to seemed to be trying to teach a language phonetically. I even listened to a couple of podcasts that said, don't try to learn the grammar portion of this program. Just try to listen to what we're saying. And then they would start speaking, and they would speak, no kidding, so fast there was no way that I could, like, they'd say one word and then another word, and then go, and then they'd just start rattling off. And you're like, okay, I'm in the third word and I'm giving up. But anyways, This weekend I went back through and I had reminded myself that when I was in high school back in the Stone Ages, and we were writing on chalkboards and tablets, carving out stones. I took a year of Spanish, and I cannot speak Spanish because I only took a year of it. But I thought, I was able to pass my final. So I remember being able to learn this. And so I went back and sort of retaught myself what I had learned in high school. And it was more like a refresher because even though I haven't used it in a lot of years, it came back very, very quickly. And the method that I was taught in school and some of those building blocks, the foundation was still there. And so after refreshing myself from that, I went and applied that to what I'm trying to learn for Russian. It's funny, Google Maps just drove by my window with a little car with
Cute.
a little thing on it. I'm on Google Maps. Anyways, I applied that to Russian, and I was able to actually start putting some words together, and I was so elated. I sent you a text last night. I was on Instagram, and my little skaters came on there, and there was some stuff, and I could read what they were trying to say. Not all of it, because it was a big paragraph.
Did you know what it meant? Or like you were phonetically reading?
I had the gist of it.
Very nice.
Yeah, I could understand the first names of the skaters they were talking about. I was able to kind of go, oh, that's Dimitri, and whatever. And then I could spy camera what they were talking about last night. But I kind of got the gist of it, that they were at a contest and were thanking their coaches.
That's awesome.
Is what the post was. So yeah, I made progress.
That's awesome. Yay.
And my word actually, it's a phrase, because we chatted about it, is etamama, which sounds like edamame. I'm using the mnemonic on that, but that means this is mother, this is mom. So you can say that.
Etamama.
Etamama. Yep.
Beautiful.
That's it.
That's
so
awesome.
There's Russian 101.
Great job. That's awesome. I love languages. Period.
It
No,
was
I
fun.
love the feeling of learning something new and being like, I know this.
I get it.
It's like the biggest sense of pride. I really enjoy that. So, way to go. Talking about me now. This I guess the thing that I was going to share was just a grammar point that I've been working on and teaching a little bit of it. But I've been trying to focus on inputting more types of learning than sitting down with a book and being like, okay, here's my meticulous grammar study for the day. So I've been watching a lot of K-dramas and I've been listening to a lot of K-pop, specifically the latter. I've been listening to a lot of K-pop songs and trying to just pick out words that I know. Even if it's just one word, I'm just like, that word, majimak, I recognize that, and it means final. Okay, there we go, I got one. Just kind of thing, and just trying to recognize times, or like NCT is a K-pop group that I like a lot, and they do like daily vlogs or videos that are kind of like that, where it's just a couple of members like hanging out doing something casually, and I'll just watch it with Korean subtitles and no English, and most of the time, if I'm lucky, I'll understand 20% of it, or like the general gist of like, okay, they're making cookies. But
Exactly.
like, at least I'm getting somewhere with it. So I've been trying to do that more in addition to studying grammar, which is my like study spiel. But recently I've been working on this conjugation grammar point of saying to only do blank, like only in a word, in a sentence. And Korean grammar is so backwards from English that honestly, most of the time, if I don't know a grammar point, thank gosh, I can typically assume that it'll be backwards from how it is in English. And most of the time I'm right, because it literally is almost reversed. And there's
Okay.
this one way to say only. There's two ways to say only in Korean. And the one that I'm working on has just been making my brain explode. But I think I finally really understand it. But there's one way, and it's just man, romanized man, and it attaches to the word, which is very common in Korean, is that it becomes part of the conjugation, and then it thus becomes one whole word, which is like very weird. And it just implies that you mean only blank. So water in Korean is mul, M-U-L, mul. So if I said mul man, it would be only water, and that would be one word kind of thing. Like there's no space in
One
between.
word?
Yeah, there's no space between mul and man. So that's like what I mean by it attaches to the word. Or I could say uyu man, which uyu is milk, so it would be only milk, or something like that. And so that's one way to say it. But there's another way which is more common, and it's used with verbs. And it's the word is pakke, which actually is the attachment, and then any negative verb conjugation. And the thing that's like throwing me off about it is that it has to be a negative, which is like really weird. And it
Yeah.
literally translates to nothing but blank is what you're more accurately saying. And so pak, the word pak means outside. I guess it would be romanized. I don't actually know. B-A-K, I guess. B-A-K-K, pak. And then pakke, it's just like a particle that you add on to imply that you're talking about a location. So you're literally saying outside is what you're saying, and then a negative conjugation. So pakke will attach to a word. So let's think of an example. Okay, so cola is cola, and 마시다 is to say drink. So if I wanted to say I drink cola, conjugated, I would say cola 마셔요, right? But if I wanted to say I
Okay.
drink nothing but cola, it would be cola 밖에 안 마셔요. 안 is the equivalent of not, to not drink. Like 마셔요 would be to drink, and 안 마셔요 is to not drink. So you're word for word saying cola outside of don't drink. That's what you're saying. And it means I only drink cola. I drink nothing but cola. Cola 밖에 안 마셔요.
But didn't that also sound like I don't drink cola?
That's where I get thrown off. It's really hard, specifically when verbs have already implied negative meanings. And what I mean by that is you can say, like, here's an example of it used in English. To like. I like books or something. The opposite, the antonym of to like, it could be to not like, You could put not in front of pretty much any verb, and it just means the opposite. But if you want to be more specific, to not like, the antonym of to like would be to hate. It's its own separate verb, and it has a negative meaning already built in, to hate something, right? So an example of that in Korean is 있어요. We'll just already assume it's conjugated. 있어요 means to have. So I could say, here's my phone. I could say 핸드폰 있어요, and it means I have a phone. And the opposite of that, the negative meaning of that would be 없어요. So I could say 핸드폰 없어요, and it means I don't have a cell phone, right? But if I wanted to use 밖에, it already has to be negative. So I have to use 밖에. So if I wanted to say I only have a phone, it would be 핸드폰 밖에 없어요. It might even be 밖에, it would be 밖에 없어요. So it literally is word for word. Outside of a cell phone, I have nothing. I only have a cell phone. I have nothing but a cell phone. But you're literally, it sounds like it's almost a double negative is like what it kind of sounds like.
Yeah.
And so it's just been like kind of rocking my world, with the negative conjugations on a negative verb.
I think what you're talking about is that gully that I, for lack of better words, is weak. With you have to understand the grammar portion of the program. You have to know what you're doing, and like what you say, you have to say the opposite of this, and this is you put a negative in front of the verb. You have to know what the verb is to put it there. And so as tedious as that could sound to some people, and I quite like grammar, so that's fine. And
I love grammar too.
Certainly do. Yeah, I used to find that was like doing puzzles at school when you had to dissect a sentence and, subject, verb, and prepositional phrase and all that. I used to love that stuff. So that is so important, because if you're trying to learn a language and you're just trying to learn it phonetically, you're going to get stuck. I mean, I could say buenos dias to you all day long, but do I know that that's good morning and not good afternoon? No, and why? So that's I think that's what opened up to me this weekend and why everything suddenly made sense.
One of my favorite things is exploring grammar points that I haven't learned yet without sitting down and formally learning them. It's a dangerous road to get down because you can accidentally teach yourself something wrong. And so you have to be mindful of that. I don't know how this works, so I'm trying to dissect how it works and figure it out on my own without somebody explicitly saying, oh yes, you have to use a negative conjugation with this. An example of that is when I learned how to use when as linking between two phrases. I was asleep when my brother came in, not when being a time, but as a way to link two phrases. And that I knew for a fact before I learned that grammar point that how to say when in that case, because they're actually two different words in Korean for when you mean when are we going to go versus I was doing this when blah happened. They're two different types of when. And the when that I'm referring to is te. T-E. I actually don't Romanize things very much, so I'm not sure how that would be Romanized. I could spell it in Korean for you. But te. And I couldn't figure out. I knew it would happen in the middle of a phrase, but I could not figure out where the grammar around it happened. And I kept seeing te in all these sentences, and I was like, I hadn't learned it yet. And I still technically haven't sat down and learned that grammar point, but I was like, I really just want to figure out how you use te in a sentence, because Korean is a language. This is on a mini rant. I guess I'm teaching two things. Korean's a language very frequently where the reason comes first. In English, I would say, I'm really busy because I'm a teacher. But in Korean, you have to say it backwards because you always give your reasoning first. Because I'm a teacher, I'm really busy. And I mean, that makes sense in English too, but it's always that way in Korean. You wouldn't say I'm really busy because I'm a teacher. So I was like, okay, well, the reason happens first, right? Or the actual girth, the reasoning will come first. So if I wanted to say, okay, let's look at the sentence, I eat porridge when I'm sick. If I know when happens in the middle, bridging these two sentences, I was like, okay, all I have to figure out is I eat porridge and I'm sick. Those are the two phrases, and I'm just using te to bridge them. It's so there's only so many things that can go wrong here. Believe it or not, it took me a month to figure out. That's not an exaggeration. It was a very long time. And wow. I realized that you say the phrase that involves the when first, and then you're it's weird. I don't even know how to verbally explain it. It makes sense in my head. When comes after the phrase, it's at the end, the same way everything in Korean is at the end. So I would typically say, I was asleep when my brother came in, or I eat porridge when I'm sick. In Korean, it'll be backwards. I'm sick when I eat porridge, is how that would work. But when is still acting on the I'm sick. So it would be equivalent to saying, when I'm sick, I eat porridge. Or more literally, that's the literal translation, but it would be, I eat porridge when I'm sick, is the more natural way to say it in English. But it would be like saying when, and it acts on the first phrase in the sentence. But I kept trying to like switch it and translate it, and it was just like this never-ending spinning in my head. But when I figured it out, I almost went out and bought myself a cake and wrote "when" on it, just because like I was like, I learned how to use it. When.
But that's why you need to know the grammar in order to learn the language. You have to understand the way to put a sentence together.
But also following that, you don't just need to sit and learn from a book, because I have never to this day still sat down and technically learned how to use te in phrases, but I've sat down with my Korean tutor and used it while we've just been speaking casual conversation, and she didn't correct me. She's like, yeah, that was right. And I've used it in phrases with my friends while we're texting and all this stuff, and it's never been wrong. And while there could be a second usage of it or another way to use it, or it might sound slightly unnatural but not worth correcting, I don't know yet. But I've learned it through the context of I've seen other people use this, and I have a general gist of what it means. Now I'm going to test this theory. And I saw somebody talking about how to use, like a really good way of doing that. And it's through sample sentences that you already know are correct. If you know, okay, let's use an English example. I go to school. If you don't recognize, let's say you're learning English and you see the phrase, I go to school, and somebody's like, yes, that is a correct English sentence. But you've never seen the verb go before, and you're like, okay, I want to figure out what this verb means, but I don't want to go to a dictionary and immediately translate it, right? Well, if you already know the subject, you're like, I know the phrase I, and I know school, so, typically you'd be able to draw a conclusion. But let's say you want to use go, but you're not quite sure how to use it. Okay, let's just change one thing. Instead of I'm going to say we go to school. We go to school is still a correct sentence, right? Yeah, nice. Okay, instead of using we, I'm going to go back to I, and instead I'm going to change school to the supermarket. This time I'm going to change it to the library. Well, there's a whole bunch. I go to the library. Now I've got a whole bunch of other sentences. We go to school. And then it's a good way to start and like bringing up all these different phrases when of times you can instantly use it. But jumping too far ahead can then get into the place where you teach yourself wrong, especially if it's like a word. There's a couple of, I'm trying to think of an example in English, but I can't. But in Korean, there's a word that means cold, as in, oh, it's cold outside. But there's also, or I'm cold, that's the same word. But there's another word for cold that you only use when you're describing the temperature of beverages for some reason. There's a ton of Englishes. There's lots in English. It's just a weird one. But, if you see that word cold and you try and like switch things around, you might accidentally, this drink is cold, but you used it describing this cold, and so, that's not right. So, I mean, you do get into a fine line, but teaching it that way, I will never forget how to use te now, because it took me so long to figure out, but I know it was correct when I used it. Yeah. So it's just like that input learning, and I didn't sit down and learn it from a book, but that grammar point is solid in my head.
Nice.
So that's my 2 cents. Sorry, I swear I just went on a 15-minute language rant. I love languages!
We need to correct you, though. You eat porridge all the time, not just when you're sick.
Yeah, I was just using that sentence because I know it in my head. In Korean. That was one that I said with my tutor. Apute.
Nice. All right, well, let's wrap it up there. We have more to chat about in future weeks coming up on Girls Across the Pond.
Girls Across the Pond.
Girls Across the Pond. I want to future talk about pen paling, which you are very good at. And I
love pen paling.
Started with it, but I also run a pen pal group. So lots to talk about there. And also things that you learned in school, which kind of goes along with the whole argument about should cursive be taught anymore. There was some more dialogue. Cursive. yeah, more dialogue on social media about that. I'd like to chat about that in the future. So that will certainly be coming up, amongst other things that just happen our way in the next week. So hopefully you'll join us then.
We also have social medias, Instagram and Facebook, both of which are just Girls Across the Pond. Give us a like, give us a follow, and let us know what you're thinking about the stuff we're talking about. Are you learning a language and learn something new and cool that you want to show us? Please let us know. Or any of the things that we talk about in any of our episodes. We'd love to hear what you're thinking while you're listening and enjoying some tea with us. As well as if you're listening to us on any podcast streaming platform, make sure, any podcast streaming platform, welcome. Thanks for listening. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. And thanks for listening.
Awesome.
We'll see you in our next episode. You did it the right way, the non-rude way.
I did it the right way.
We'll see you in our next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.